Faris. I don't think anyone expected that she of all Final Fantasy characters would receive a Neo-Vision form, or a CG Limit Burst. But regardless, the outcome looks fantastic. Neo-Vision Faris' Trustmaster reward is a materia that boosts your unit's attack and magic by 40%, and parameters from Espers by 30%. This is an excellent way to further boost your evoke damage, as every little bit will certainly help. Her Super Trustmaster reward is her sword, which has a great deal of attack and magic. It also has a passive that further boosts those Esper parameters by 50%. Even without evoke damage in mind, it's still a pretty strong hybrid sword. While these rewards might not boost your unit's evocation damage, Faris has a fairly unbalanced amount of passives that prefers more Esper parameters anyways. Onto her active abilities. First we have Steel, a overpowered ability not seen on many Neo-Vision units. Can Laswell and Reagan use Steel? No. Well, I mean sure if you give it to them, but that's not the point. You see, the developers have realized that Steel is so game-breaking that Faris can't even triple cast it. Jokes aside, fast attack will hit 6 to 8 enemies at random. It's not the best for breaking break gauges, but I don't know what else you'd use it for. Her other abilities are physical attacks that deal magic damage, so keep that in mind. Artillery Fire is a Graviton Cannon Brave ability that can inflict death and then poison, blind, and confuse the corpse, but it probably won't. It'll be great in Arena and Coliseum, and I'm sure everyone will be so impressed by your mad skills. Preparations, Pirates. We'll use 99 of your MP to fill the evocation gauge by 1. It also fills Faris' limit burst gauge by 15, which, given her limit burst cost is... oh, very clever. They don't show how much it costs. Well, it's the same in her Brave Shift, which is 100. To put it simply, the trade-off isn't really worth it, unless you have an outrageous MP pool. Soldier Summon summons an Esper that doesn't exist. On that note, did a Leviathan exist in Final Fantasy V? Regardless, it takes 2 Esper Orbs to cast, and then deals evoke damage that Chains of Chaos Wave. Arrow Cannon can be used 6 times. It deals wind magic damage that Chains of Chaos Wave awaken, and lowers the enemy's wind resistance by 130%. Water Cannon does the same thing, though the element switches out for water, believe it or not. The cannons boast incredibly high damage and utility for their generous usage rate. Unfortunately, they're also held back by the fact that they can't be multicast, just like Steel, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's actually understandable in this case. She also has 2 magic spells. Black magic needs to be buffed like green magic. Impero's pretty decent now, though it's not suited for specialized teams. Onto her passives. With her Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward equipped, Faris will change her normal attacks. What does this mean? Well, for starters, she now shouts. It also deals evoke damage at the cost of some of the evoke gauge, which would be a bit ridiculous if it didn't refund it. If you were to look at pure numbers, the shrink's theoretically halved out of Soldier Summon, theoretically being the key word. Changing the normal attack is a cool concept though, so I hope to see some improvements to the idea in the future. Back to the passives. She has a strong Aquatic Killer, a superb boost to her evoke damage, and a strong boost to her limit burst damage. She gets to dual wield, and will raise the chain cap if she's doing so. She can evoke any Esper in your party, and if she happens to evoke certain Espers, namely Leviathan, Golem, and Rama, she'll put up an Esper field that boosts water, earth, or lightning physical damage respectively by 25%. She also has a 50% lightning, water, and wind elemental resistance. If you want to build her, do whatever you can to boost her magic, Esper parameter boost, limit burst damage, and evoke damage. Her Trustmaster reward and Super Trustmaster rewards are obviously excellent choices. Onto her limit burst. Thunderstorm, supposedly the thing that comes out of its mouth, deals wind evoke damage and activates an area effect that boosts wind physical damage by 25%. Why on earth doesn't it tell you that? I have no idea, isn't that so funny and quirky? Time to change forms. I don't know why, but I expected she'd ride a dragon or something. Anyways, her Brave Shift doesn't have a turn duration, but it does have a 2-turn cooldown. Be aware it also has a hefty 3-turn cooldown once you activate it. Active abilities. On top of the game breaker that is Steel, she gains 2 tremendous abilities in Drink, which lets her drink, and Throw, which lets her throw. Otherwise, she'd be crippled for life like every other unit that can't use Drink or Throw. However, much like Steel, these abilities are so game-breaking that they can't be multicasted. Her abilities now shift from evoke damage to regular physical damage, so keep that in mind. Full Breakdown inflicts an 80% full break. Soldier's Roar uses an Esper Orb to boost Faris' attack and magic by 300%, and boost her limit burst damage by a strong 150%. Blade of Courage is an absolute Mirror of Equity Brave ability that deals fire damage and lowers the enemy's fire resistance by 130%. Pirates Ahoy can be used twice, because there are only like 2 other pirates in the game, I think. Anyways, it boosts her limit burst damage by a ridiculous 250%, completely fills her heavy limit burst gauge, and lowers the enemy's wind resistance by 120%. Blessed Fire Crystal is a cooldown ability that boosts her fire damage by an incredible 50%. Passives. With her Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward equipped, she'll now shout "Feel the blade of a pirate" when you tap her. It's actually pretty good against break gauges with a sword, even though it only deals 2 hits per use. Everything else is pretty much the same, though her stats have been adjusted for attack. One thing to note is her elemental resistance, where she's traded them all for 100% fire resistance. Finally, her limit burst. It's another single hit attack that deals fire damage, lowers the enemy's fire resistance by 130%, and inflicts an 85% full break. It's a pretty strong limit burst, though it competes with her other limit burst for attention. Well, let's prioritize brave abilities. She has a grand total of 2 brave abilities, so that's less farming. I suggest raising Blade of Courage to raise the Imperil, and not touching artillery fire because your time is valuable and you should treasure it. Let's make a damage rotation. On turn 1, activate her Brave Shift. Or use this neat toggle thing so you don't have to. Activate Soldier's Roar, Blessed Fire Crystal, and Blade of Courage. On turn 2, triple cast Blade of Courage. On turn 3, cast Pirates Ahoy and double cast Blade of Courage. On turn 4, you forcibly revert back, though I guess it's not reverting in this case so much as forced transformation. Anyways, activate Arrow Cannon. On turn 5, activate her Limit Burst. From there, activate her Brave Shift and start over. So how good is Neovision Faris? In terms of damage output, she'll beat out the Neovision Awaken Evoke damage dealers, but she won't beat out Neovision Terra, despite having superb abilities like Steal, Throw, and Drink. She will find a good amount of use via her Esper Field effects, where they can boost elemental damage even further. In fact, a great deal of her utility comes from her variety on top of her damage, with solid breaks, elemental imperos, and the fact that her damage output is actually pretty solid. Her Brave Shift is an integral part of her kit, as she doesn't have any buffs on her regular form. Speaking of which, she's relatively slow on her own, as you have to wait 3 turns to switch back to her normal form, so in terms of speed and damage, Neovision Terra's definitely got her beat. On a side note, she can find some incredible support from one of the other featured units on this banner, Neovision Awakened Warrior of Light Bards. You should totally check out his reveal video when it's available, as pairing the 2 together can elevate your team's wind damage by absurd amounts. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Comment below if you plan to get Neovision Faris. Comment below if there's another character that you'd like to see with a CG Limit Burst. While they probably won't get one, I think it's great to see that the developers can put out something as incredible as this.